It's pretty amazing when you think about it. How does a tiny dry seed hold the entire plan for, say, a huge stalk of corn or a whole field of wheat? Well, today, we're going to decode that very blueprint. We'll explore the incredible journey of how crops grow and, maybe even more interesting, what it takes to be a detective when that journey goes a little sideways.
I mean, that's really the core question, isn't it? How does that little seed just know what to do? It's not just a matter of getting bigger. Nope. It's about following a super precise set of instructions, a biological program, really, to find water, reach for the sun, and ultimately create the food that we all depend on. So let's open up that instruction manual and start from page 1.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to follow the plant's journey, starting with how it gets going. Then we'll look at how it builds itself up, how it keeps track of time, and what happens when it finally reaches maturity. And then we'll wrap it all up by playing the field detective to see how to troubleshoot problems.
So, first things first. A plant's life, it's not random at all. In fact, it's the opposite. It follows this really strict, genetically coded script. You can think of it like a biological blueprint that lays out a series of predictable chapters. And that blueprint, it basically unfolds across 5 major stages. First up, you've got germination and emergence. That's the big kickoff. Then it moves into vegetative growth, which is all about building the factory, the leaves and roots. After that, it flips the switch to flowering, the reproductive part of the show. That leads to seed development, where it pours all its resources into the next generation. And finally, physiological maturity, the finish line. Okay, let's zoom right in on that beginning. These first few steps, from that tiny seed to a little seedling, wow, they are so critical, they can literally set the stage for the plant's entire life.
So, germination, what is it? It's basically the Great Awakening. The embryo inside that seed has been dormant, just sleeping, sometimes for months or even years. But then, you give it the right cocktail of water, oxygen, and temperature, and bam! Its internal factory just switches on, and the whole system roars to life.
And its first moves are just brilliant, honestly. The very first root that pops out, the radical, it immediately knows to grow down. It's sensing gravity, searching for water, and anchoring the whole thing. At the very same time, the shoot does the exact opposite. It fights against gravity, pushing up, up, up through the soil, trying to find that all-important sunlight. Okay, so our little seedling has made it. It's up and running. Now the real construction work starts. This is what we call the vegetative stage. And right now, the plant has one single job: to build the green engine that's going to power the rest of its life. So let's start below ground. The root system, it's basically mission control. It's the anchor holding it down, it's the straw for slurping up water, and it's the fork for getting nutrients. And this is key. If anything messes with those roots early on, I'm talking drought, compacted soil, anything, it can put that plant on a path to a lower yield that it can never fully get back from. The foundation is just that important. So what kind of things can go wrong down there? Oh, plenty. Think about it. Compacted soil is like trying to grow through a brick wall. Soil that's too acidic can lock up all the good nutrients, making them unavailable. Poor drainage, that literally drowns the roots, cutting off their oxygen. And sometimes you get these hard layers in the soil that just stop the roots in their tracks. It's a tough world down there. At the same time, up above ground, the plant is building its power grid. It's just furiously unfolding its canopy, its leaves. And you have to think of every single one of those leaves as a high-tech solar panel. They are all designed to capture as much sunlight as possible to create the fuel, the sugars, that power literally everything else the plant does. All right, the engine is built. It's a beautiful, green, solar-powered machine. But how does it know when it's time to stop just growing leaves and start the really important job of making seeds? Well, this is where it gets fascinating. Plants are incredible timekeepers, using these really sophisticated internal clocks to read what's going on in the world around them.
One of their main tools is just tracking heat. We have a term for this, growing degree days, or GDDs. The easiest way to wrap your head around this is to think of it like a savings account for heat. Every day that's warm enough for the plant to grow, it makes a little deposit of heat units into its account. It can't move on to the next growth stage, like flowering, until it has saved up enough, until it hits its GDD target.
And the formula is actually super simple. You just take the day's maximum temperature and the minimum temperature, average them out, and then subtract what we call the base temp. That base temperature is just the point where it's too cold for the plant to do anything. Whatever number you're left with, that's the number of GDDs the plant banked for that day. But wait a second, there's a little problem with only tracking heat, right? A 70-degree day in April feels exactly the same to a plant as a 70-degree day in September. So how does it know the difference? How does it know what time of year it is so it doesn't accidentally start flowering right before winter?
The answer is it measures the length of the day. This is a process called photoperiodism. But here's the really cool part. The secret trick isn't actually about the length of the daylight. It's about the length of the night. It's the period of uninterrupted darkness that's the trigger. So short day plants like soybeans actually need long nights to start flowering. And long day plants like wheat, they need short nights. It's a brilliant built-in calendar.
Okay, so now we're at the end game. The whole mission changes. All that energy the plant captured, all those leaves and roots it built, everything now gets redirected for one single purpose, making the next generation.
This all builds to a specific point called physiological maturity. You can think of this as the point of no return. The grain or the seed has reached its maximum possible dry weight. It's as full and heavy as it's ever going to be. The connection to the mother plant is severed and its job is done. The life cycle is complete. For a grower, this is that moment of relief when you know the crop is made.
But of course, that perfect biological blueprint doesn't always go according to plan. So what happens when you're out in a field and something just looks wrong? This is where the job description changes. You stop being just a grower and you become a field detective. And I mean that literally. This isn't about just guessing. It's a methodical process, just like solving a case. A good diagnostician starts by observing patterns across the field. Then they develop a detailed case history. After that, they carefully document the symptoms, and only then, after gathering all the evidence, do they make a final diagnosis.
In that case history, it is absolutely everything. You have to ask a ton of questions about all the potential suspects. What's the weather been like? Too hot? Too cold? Too wet? What about the soil? The pH, is there compaction? What about the field's past? What was planted here before? What chemicals have been used? Every single answer is another clue in the puzzle.
Here's a really key clue that detectives in the field use all the time. The pattern of the problem tells a story. If you see something wrong on just a few random, scattered plants, you're probably looking at a pest or a disease. But if you see a big, widespread pattern that maybe follows the curve of a hill or the spray pattern of a machine, well, then you're almost certainly dealing with a much bigger environmental or nutritional issue.
And this quote here really just nails it. It says a crop diagnostician has to look beyond just fertility problems. They have to understand all the conditions that impact growth. And that's the bottom line. To solve the case, you can't get tunnel vision on one thing. You have to understand the whole system, the soil, the weather, the plant's genetics, the field's history, to see how all the pieces of the puzzle really fit.
So, when you understand this incredible biological blueprint, it really changes how you look at the world, doesn't it? The next time you drive past a field of corn or soybeans, I hope you don't just see a bunch of green plants. I hope you see billions of tiny, living engines and clocks, each one perfectly executing an ancient plan. A plan, by the way, that puts food on all of our plates. Pretty amazing stuff.